Right, let's start. Well, thank you so much, Tommy, for joining us today. It's such a pleasure to be able to talk to you, especially I know you have such a busy schedule at the music department. Yeah, so no, welcome to our New Talent live chat. This is our first time going live on Facebook, so hoping everything will work fine. So Tommy here is our guest for our series number 12, and Tommy is the head of instrumental studies and deputy director of music at Eton College. So this will be a very interesting chat because I've long heard, especially after the outbreak of the pandemic, that I've read and heard through different media channels that Eton has been doing so much in response to the pandemic. And so, Tommy, could you maybe start by telling us, so from your point of view, what do you think has been the biggest change in your life so far because of the coronavirus?
Well, I suppose before the outbreak, certainly my routines of daily life revolving around my position at Eton, which involves lots and lots of very long days in the school, in the music schools, with boarding houses, lots of going back and forth between the college and my house. So of course, being based at home the whole time is probably the biggest difference that I feel. And alongside with that, lots of phone conversations, the use of Zoom. Nobody had ever heard of Zoom beforehand. And yeah, it's been a very, very different sort of way of working, slightly more intense, in some ways. Green fatigue, I think now. Yeah.
Yes. No, I find this Zoom thing, it's really useful, and you just wonder why didn't we do it before, because it's now so easy to just get a meeting arranged from all corners of the world. Well,
I think that's the great advantage of Zoom. I don't want it to sell it, but it's so easy, and I think that's been the big thing that people have found. There may have been a fear of these kind of live interactions, as such that the technology at least is easy, and as time has gone on with my academic teaching, I'm pretty au fait with screen sharing computer audio when I want students to listen to something. So it's even just learning how to use it effectively has been a new thing. But when you realize you've been on Zoom for hours in a day, you sometimes think, God, I need a bit of fresh air now. So.
Yes. So you talked about doing all these virtual meetings and teaching online at Eton. So what is the term still going on? And has the music, so all music teaching, has it all been moved online now at Eton?
Yeah, well, today is actually our last day of term for the summer, or last day of the half. We call them halves at Eton. There must be some logic in that somewhere. But yes, the music lessons have continued pretty remarkably, actually. I think there was a slight interruption of a couple of days when it was announced that the school would sort of shut its physical doors. A lot of planning was done, and I think we had a day with no music lessons, but then the Zoom lessons started. We did a lot of work on the systems of planning those, and so that we aware of what's going on all the time. But yeah, the instrumental program, which is there or thereabouts, sort of 1,100 lessons per week. Instrumental lessons has continued on all instruments, and yeah, it's been really great. I think there's been quite a lot of sort of improvised things happening. Organ lessons have been interesting. I hear with a lot of people not necessarily having access to organs. Some instruments clearly struggle more through this medium than others. Find that some of the louder instruments, the sound sometimes struggle, and there are things you can do. You know, the original sound feature on Zoom helps instrumental sound quality a lot, because Zoom is set up for speech, and has a sort of noise filter inbuilt in it. We've encouraged where we can for boys to use USB microphones, which again just help you with sound, so that our teachers can get a really good idea of what's going on. But yeah, the lessons have continued really, to say, remarkably little interruption to the flow of those. So it's been a real success.
Yeah, as well. 1,100 so lessons a week. That's amazing. Yes, is that what normally happens at Eton if we're not sort of pandemic?
Yeah. So there's it's about 1,250 boys in the school, and about just over half, 750 take instrumental lessons, and a lot of boys learn more than one instrument, of course. It's a fairly sort of healthy percentage. We've got 75 sort of visiting music teachers who deliver those one-to-one lessons, and a few of the full-time staff also teach them. And we teach across the sort of spectrum of instruments. We teach everything from sitar to bagpipes, through all of the orchestral instruments. And you know, singing is very popular. We're lucky for a boys' school. We've got so much singing on. So yeah.
Yes, and what about sort of groups, chamber music? How's that going so far online?
Yeah, this has been, you know, all of these things represent challenges, and I think we had some early experiments with how they might work. One thing that doesn't work terribly well is trying to do live music making because of delays on the internet. Yeah. And you know, people soon realized that wasn't going to work. So instead, you know, it's about finding music that can be put together remotely. So we're lucky enough. Our head of strings is also a sort of head of chamber music, and he's organised quite a lot of groups. And we've also had a really successful virtual ensemble competition that we've run, and we had several categories in this. One was a sort of collaborative category, so to boys to be done with other boys at the school. And then we did, of course, the multi-tracked solo ensemble performance. So, you know, boys have played all kinds of things, some really great piano duets with one person, and a whole sort of load of things. And a boy sort of playing all the instruments in a rock band, and things like that. So there's been this sort of spike of creativity, I think, to solve the inherent problem of not having people in the same room. But the results of that have been fascinating.
Yeah. So during this time that we have to do everything online, I did find on social media, like Facebook and Instagram, that there are so many young musicians who's very keen to put their performance out on these media platforms. I think much more than when I was their age, and much more confident as well. And they're more willing to try different things, like, as you say, you know, being very creative with the format, etc. I think that's it's very encouraging to see, and I wonder how we sort of keep that alive, to keep the creativity and sort of experimenting kind of aspect alive after we go back to normal?
Yeah, I think we can learn quite a lot of lessons through this period. And I was discussing with some colleagues last night about what, really what we can sort of pick up about it. And I think you're right. The way that the young people, the students that we teach, the sort of new generation of musicians that are coming through, are, they're in a sense, a lot braver than I was when I was studying at the Royal Academy. And none of us had websites. None of us posted our own music on social media or anything like that. And it's really great to see. I think, we've got a lot of challenges with this. The sort of commercial workings of the music business as we know it are going to change. So, the more entrepreneurial students can be, the more creative they can be, the better the chance there is of having this kind of thing. I mean, we very much hope that, we can go back to live concerts soon, but I'm sure a lot of the technological things that we learn, are going to be incorporated, because, we may well struggle to get a full symphony orchestra rehearsing in the same way as we did before. So we may have to multi-track different sections of an orchestra together. A lot of boys here have learned how to play with a click track, which is something, they wouldn't have done before. And actually, really listening to themselves when you're doing recordings, and the art of perseverance, I think, as well. But you're right. What has been really surprising, and it's been a really great thing, is how keen our students have been to submit their own work for public consumption. We don't have a problem filling our concerts. There's people always want to perform, but we've had to put on extra concerts because so many people want to perform, and that's meant lots of editing these concerts together behind the scenes, which again, Zoom was something new to me, using all of the movie making things on to make something together, and editing audio and editing some of the big virtual ensembles has been a huge amount of work, and that's something that can't be underestimated.
Yes, well, I can imagine. And when we edit these chats, I already feel, oh, this is a new skill for me. But that's only two people talking. So I can imagine when it's, maybe more than 100 young musicians all playing together. That must be a huge amount of work.
Yeah, we're lucky. We have a large department, and there are definitely people in the department more expert than me in doing those things, and we're very, very lucky to have that. But everybody's taken a little bit. I've edited our informal concerts together, and even making sure sound levels are roughly even, putting the videos together, changing some of the formats. It just takes time, and by the time you add in a sort of slow computer and a dodgy internet connection, these things become even more of a challenge.
Yes, indeed. And so talking about concerts, if we're talking about normal circumstance, how many concerts per term would Eton be putting on?
Well, it's interesting. We did a bit of sort of research as to how many performing opportunities we get in the sort of average week, and there's usually between sort of 4 and 5 sort of performance opportunities in the average week. It equates to a lot. We have children's concerts, which we make available to the local community. For informal concerts, we have boy-led, we call it ECMS concerts, where the older boys sort of have a theme for a concert. They put on concerts themselves. All of the genres of music across the school are represented in different concerts. We have chamber concerts, lots of jazz concerts. Of course, the famous chapel choir sing, you know, at the choral offices, you know, 3 or 4 times a week. And as well as putting on choral concerts, there's choral society concerts, and the larger orchestra concerts and concert bands. So there's so many ensembles to sort of fit in that our music diary is extremely full. And there are certainly weeks where you feel we've got at least one concert every night for the next 2 weeks. And you know, in any busy school, clearly timetabling these things is a challenge. And we find that timetabling within our own department can be tricky.
Wow, yeah. It sounds very busy indeed. And are these concerts sort of, especially the boy-led one, so if someone is not, let's say they're not a music scholar and they are not learning an instrument within the school, can they also take part in these concerts?
We're quite keen that to take part in sort of school music making, that we want boys to learn an instrument within the school. And that's actually something we're pretty firm on. We've got a great belief in the sort of quality of our own visiting music teachers. And actually, it just means we've got those communication channels open the whole time. So we say, you know, if you want to take part in school music making, you know, instrumentally anyway, you've got to learn within the school. Yes. But as with regards to sort of you know, non-music scholars, yeah, of course, there's lots of them that get involved in concerts. We do really try to cater for everybody at every level, and you know, so we have there's a junior string orchestra, a junior concert band. We recently created a sort of training symphony orchestra, and that has grown from nothing to 50 or 60 members who are really, really keen. And that's been a fairly new venture. And it's now a sort of regular fixture in what we do, the Sinfonia. So we're very lucky that we've got the numbers and we've got so many people who just really love music making. You know?
Yes, no, I've long heard the strong music tradition at Eton, and I know you have amazing teachers. I think many of them are academy teachers. I think I know a few. And of course, we both went to the Royal Academy of Music, and you were elected as an associate in 2018. Congratulations.
Thank you.
No, so yes, the level of teaching is very high, and I've heard from various people how you know, how they think the boys are very lucky to be able to have access to that sort of teaching. And recently I've because I think a lot of people know that Eton, especially after the coronavirus, has done so much for the community and tried to be, well, as it always has been, try to be inclusive and do as much as the school can for the community. And the Eton is now providing accommodation for key workers who can't go home. Yeah, and I think I read a tweet about someone saying that they've been really enjoying giving weekly music lessons to these key worker residents at Eton. I just find that fascinating. Do you know more about it?
Yeah, so one of the things that the school did really quickly with the pandemic was to make available the boarding house accommodation to key workers and their families. And they moved in pretty quickly, and the physical school has operated as a school for their children during this time. And yeah, part of their sort of program whilst they've been there has been a music class given sort of weekly by one of the team, and we've had some of our visiting music teachers in to sort of help that out, and it's been very popular. it's been a challenge in that the children's age range is quite wide, but you know, they've really loved it. And actually, one of the really sweet things was when we did a sort of virtual orchestra recording, Mambo from West Side Story. The key worker children's and the key workers themselves sort of joined in on the thing, so they got a little the moment of fame there. But it's been the whole program has been something that the school really took lead on very quickly, and it's been really great. You know, I know they've been you know, really grateful for it, and you know, it's shown the school in its best light. You know, and it's been, you know, something to be proud to be involved in. So
it definitely sounds amazing, and I think it will not only be an amazing experience for the key workers and their families, but also I think it's an amazing experience for people, I guess for the team who sort of give them these lessons, etc. Because I think it's an amazing opportunity, but also a rare opportunity, and I think it's just amazing that Eton has taken a lead on this area. I have a lot of respect for that. Tommy, as you know, our competition this year has to be moved online because of the coronavirus. So our candidates would have to submit a video of their performance for the jury panel to watch. And I'm sure in your job and from your own personal experience as a musician, you might have you ever done a competition audition through a video format?
you know, I did one when I was a student a long time ago now, and I remember it not being especially successful, and I don't know if I ended up submitting it in the end. I sort of tried to do this recording and realized that it just, recording percussion in this way didn't sound very good. Luckily, things have moved on, and actually I've done a number of sort of virtual recordings myself in the last few months, and I do think a little bit of equipment really helps, but also there's some really good apps out there that can really help, and you know, obviously if you have got some sort of microphone to use, that's usually a fairly advantageous thing compared to any sort of built-in microphones. I've used you can see the stand just behind me, a sort of condenser microphone for recording timpani at home, which has worked really quite well, and you get a nice sort of sound, and combined with a fairly simple audio interface, which just controls the gain coming into your computer, so you don't get a distorted signal.
Yeah.
Things like that really help, I think. It's difficult, I think, to get into a performance mode when you're, you know, in a virtual setting. But again, I've been really surprised with our students as to how easily they've sort of done that. I think, as you say, that there might be something of this generation being rather more comfortable in front of the camera than. Yeah.
Yes, well, to our audience who's watching, Tommy doesn't only have this really good microphone, he's also got a harpsichord right behind him. So that's something I'm very jealous of. So Tommy, you this is I'm personally very interested in, because you also specialize in early music. Yeah, so because I have friends who then at the academy, and then they really fell in love with early music, and then they also tour the world, but really sort of spreading the love of early music, and I can see their love for it. And sometimes for me, so I just really want to ask, what sort of attracts you to early music, and what do you find most fascinating about it?
I, you know, I just really love Bach and Handel in particular. As an organist, I played a fair bit of Bach, as you can imagine. You know, actually the orchestral music is so much fun of that sort of whole period. And you know, I think percussionists get used to playing in sort of very large symphony orchestras, and it's nice to be part of that amazing sound world. But actually in early music, when you're working with some of the sort of smaller groups, and there's it's more of a sort of democratic music making process. I think actually being really involved in the music is a great sort of thing. I just love the music itself. There's so much of it, and I think a lot of people, you know, only ever sort of scratch the surface of just the sheer quantity of repertoire that there is, and how the sort of national styles were so different. I was teaching an academic class earlier on about French Baroque choral music, and you know, listening to some of the grand motets of Charpentier and Lully. And, you know, a lot of people barely know of their existence. And you know, it's just fantastic, really joyous music a lot of the time. I think a lot of Baroque music with the, you know, the sort of affectation of one movement representing often one mood. It sort of expresses joy in a way that sometimes later music struggles with, or there's always a sort of darker side. And yeah, there is so much. And I think, you know, we're so lucky within music, you know, that we, in a lifetime, we couldn't ever listen to all of the great pieces that are out there. And there's always, you know, there are actually lots of great works to discover. We just need the time to sit down and listen to them, you know.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I think I definitely don't listen to enough early music, and I should use this extra time that I have now in lockdown to really discover more pieces. And then I might ask for your help to send me some suggestions repertoires. I'd really like to find out more. Right, great. Well, thank you so much, Tommy, for your time today. And thank you so much for giving us insights on what's happening at Eton and all the inspirational efforts that Eton has been sort of putting in, and it's really been a leader in this during this time, and it gives all of us a lot of confidence that we will overcome this difficulty, and then we'll come back stronger. Yeah.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, and it's nice to chat again.
I hope you enjoyed your first Facebook Live, Tommy.
Well.
Yes. I think if we were both, I don't know, 20 years younger as a teenager, we'd probably be much better at it.
Yeah, well, you know, I definitely missed that wave of social media the first time around, and I'll you know, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Tommy, and see you soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.